If you thought every twist was laid out, get ready because Friday, July 25th, is going to blow the lid off everything. A race for survival, dark secrets revealed. A chilling murder plot and the powerful return of a hero who was thought to have retired. Warning. This episode will keep you glued to your seat for a second, and could change the entire course of Genoa City. While the hospital is filled with chaos. Nick lies unconscious and bleeding badly after a freak accident, sending everyone around him into a panic. Sharon is paralyzed with shock, and Billy is at a loss for what to do. In that moment of life and death, Sally suddenly rushes in, pushes everyone aside, and takes control of the situation. Without hesitation, she began to give Nick first aid with decisive, calm, and surprisingly precise movements. She did not pay attention to Sharon's surprised eyes or the anxiety that was covering the whole room. Because at that moment she knew that if she was even a second slower, Nick might not survive. Sally's bravery and alertness not only surprised everyone but also showed a side of her that few people had ever seen. A person who was not only mentally strong but also had the courage and compassion to stand on the fragile line between life and death. Blood continued to flow from Nick's wound. But with each step of Sally's emergency treatment, each movement of compressing the blood, checking the pulse, keeping the breathing steady, Nick's chance of survival gradually became clearer. And that was what helped her regain complete control in a situation that no one else had the power to turn around. While Nick's life or death struggle is taking place in the pressure-filled room, somewhere else, another secret is also quietly creeping under the seemingly harmless exterior. Kane is not as panicked as he appears. Behind that fake anxiety is a cold calculation. While Billy is trying to track down the missing group's location, Kane acts strangely. He claims that the phone has no signal, that they are trapped, unable to contact the outside, leaving the group in a state of helplessness and confusion. But the truth is, Kane's phone is still working normally, he just deliberately hides it. This raises a serious question. Why is Kane lying? And what is he hiding? No one other than Carter begins to feel the danger tightening around his neck. Pressured from all sides, Carter began to panic. And in a moment of emotional outburst, he blurted out Damien's death. It was that detail that made all suspicions fall on him, even though the truth could be much more complicated. However, Carter's confusion did not come from being suspected, but from the fact that Kane was manipulating the situation, pushing him into a corner that no one could have expected. Carter began to suspect that Kane himself knew more than he was letting on, and was most likely hiding not just one but many terrible secrets. While everyone was caught up in a spiral of suspicion and betrayal, Nikki fell into a dangerous situation that no one knew about. Her silence made everyone think she was safe, but in fact, she was being cornered, not by accusations, but by a threat that was quietly approaching. Carter may be part of the crime, but no one can be sure that he is the only one. A second hand is at work. One that has not yet been revealed, hiding in unexpected guises. Nikki begins to sense that she is being watched. Strange sounds, shadows that flash in the night, all create an invisible fear. But persistent and sharp like a knife hanging over her head. She cannot tell anyone, because she herself does not know what she is facing. But her intuition, the one that has saved her from so many dangers in the past, is screaming a warning that this time, the predator may be very close. No one realizes that while they are busy dealing with Carter, while all the evidence points to him, the real killer may be calmly walking past them, smirking in the dark. And the scariest thing is the fact that if Carter can't be in two places at once, there must be someone else, an accomplice, or even the mastermind, lurking somewhere in his inner circle. As the veil of lies is slowly lifted, little by little details begin to emerge, throwing the group into chaos. Everyone is suspicious of each other, trust is eroded bit by bit. And the truth becomes increasingly distorted in the thick fog of lies. Just when Nikki was on the brink of danger, Victor suddenly appeared like a savior in the dark night. His presence not only brought peace of mind to those who were lost, but also rekindled the belief that the truth would be revealed, and justice would prevail. He did not need to say much, because his determined eyes and steady presence were enough to make those with intentions wary. Nikki trembled with fear, but her eyes lit up when she saw Victor standing in front of her. Amidst the storm of suspicion, a ray of hope was just lit. No one could have expected that Victor himself, who was always considered the pillar of power, would now once again take on the role of a hero, ready to fight against all forces to protect the woman he loved. But would his appearance be enough to prevent a tragedy that had been arranged in advance? And will he realize that the real enemy is very close, maybe even someone he once trusted completely? Victor knows that time is running out, every second is a threat. He cannot afford to delay any longer if he wants to save Nikki from the worst-case scenario. His footsteps echo through the dark hallway, his cold eyes scanning every corner as if sensing the presence of some lurking ghost. In his mind at this moment, not only is he worried about Nikki, but also has a deep suspicion about the whole incident that is happening. Carter could be a pawn, or a card that appears to cover up the real mastermind. Victor has faced countless enemies, but this time he senses something more dangerous than the old plots. Someone is controlling the entire chessboard in the dark, aiming straight at the people he loves the most. Where is Nikki? Who is hunting her? And what was the real purpose behind Damien's murder? These questions lingered in his mind as Victor headed deeper into the place where Nikki had lost track. Meanwhile, the situation at the hospital had not calmed down. The doctors had finally admitted Nick, but it was Sally who had saved his life in the last moment. Sharon was now in a state of shock and helplessness. There was nothing she could do to save the man she had loved so deeply. Billy, on the other hand, could not accept that he was incapable of facing the crisis. But the most painful thing was that Sally, who had been despised and doubted, had become the only lifeline in the disaster. She showed no pride, nor did she ask for thanks. All she cared about was that Nick was still breathing. In that moment, Sally was no longer the woman who had run away from the past, but a warrior who dared to face death. And that truth changed the way everyone looked at her, even those who had never trusted her at all. At a secret location where the Lost Group was trying to keep their spirits up, all eyes turned to Kane. His fake concern was no longer fooling anyone, although his words were still smooth. His eyes began to waver when Carter stammered out a crucial detail about Damien's death. The phone that Kane had claimed was broken was always in his pocket, turned on, and had a signal. Everything he did seemed to be calculated to delay outside intervention. Every time someone tried to find a way to leave the area, Kane tried to convince them to stay, giving reasons for danger, withholding information, and always controlling the group's direction. Carter begins to realize that he is no longer the one in control of the situation, but has been lured into a trap that he did not expect. The feeling of being pushed into a corner makes him react violently, and that confusion makes him make more fatal mistakes. However, what is worse is that no one knows that there is another person, someone who is completely not on the list of suspects, secretly monitoring every movement from the outside. That person leaves no trace, does not show up, but he knows everything: Nikki's location, Nick's condition, the chaos at the hospital, even the secret that Kane is hiding in the phone. He manipulates like a giant puppet, pulling the strings from afar, using Carter as a pawn, turning Kane into a screen, and from there, step by step leading everyone into a maze with no way out. Nikki, in a moment of strong intuition, turns her head when she feels a gaze staring at her. She saw no one, but cold sweat ran down her spine. She knew the worst was yet to come. A shadow was closing in, and this time, there might not be anyone to save her. Victor rushed into the darkness, opening each door in the hope of finding Nikki. Finally, when she was almost exhausted from the invisible chase, he appeared as if from a dream. Without words, just by looking, he understood that she had just escaped the hands of something extremely dangerous. And in his heart, a new determination was forged: he would not let anyone else in the family be hurt. But he also realized that this battle was not simple. It was not just a murder, but a deeper conspiracy, an attack on the very hearts of those who had stood firm through so many storms. Victor had no time to think. He knew that the worst was still ahead. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Sally stood quietly in a corner, watching as Nick was wheeled into the operating room. She didn't cry, but her eyes were filled with hope and fear. She had done all she could. Billy walked over to Sharon, both of them silent with shared anguish. No one could turn back time. but they were forced to face the consequences. And in that silence, a big question echoed in everyone's mind: who was really in control of all this? And was Genoa City facing a nightmare they never imagined? Don't miss the next developments that will be even more explosive. Follow and subscribe to the channel to quickly update all the thrilling plots, unexpected shocks, and fateful twists on The Young and the Restless, where every passing second can change everything.